Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Offensive Rotations Masterclass. Today, we're going to be talking about something that, like in Rocket League, is very important offense. We got offense and defense, and today we're going to be starting with our offensive rotations. Let's hop into it. Intro. First bullet point, pretty self explanatory. Offense is important. Duh. I don't think people understand the distinction between offense and just the game in general. I think something that is really underrated is actually separating the game into its three stages of offense, midfield, and defense. So, why I'm focusing on an offensive rotation is so that we can really dive deep into what your role is on offense and what you need to be doing. Next thing, offensive rotations are not just about scoring. If you expect to score the ball every touch you make on offense, you're not going to win because you're just going to keep giving the possession away. Sometimes on offense, your goal in a rotation isn't to score. We'll go over the goals in a few slides. But when you think about an offensive rotation, don't just think about it as I want to score. Figure out why you want to score. That's really the big question is why and then how. So why do you want to score? Maybe you're in a certain position and how can you score? I would say how is the more important, but thinking about the why as well matters a lot. And then finally, with all my classes, you could be bronze, you could be a pro level player. Rotations are always going to matter. You can be the most mechanical player in the game, and nothing's going to matter because you can't rotate well. And so that's why when we're talking about offensive rotations, whether you are bronze, silver, gold, or an SSL, rotations matter. That's why we're talking about it. Okay, there are three things you want to accomplish with an offensive rotation. And I consider these three things what you really need to start thinking about the game at a higher level, thinking about these three things and not just where the ball is and where the ball's going. The first thing is boost. I talked about this in my boost management masterclass. If you haven't watched that, I would. Boost is very important because more boost equals more things to do. More boost equals there's more things that you can do. And so when we are focusing on why do you want to pick up boost in an offensive rotation, you want to pick up boost because it allows you to do more things. And when you can do more things, you can outplay the opponents. And when you can outplay your opponents, that's when those goal scoring opportunities really come in. Second thing is space. I would say space is more of a control. Basically, think about your control. Here, I'll write that a little bit better just so you can actually read that. You want to control as much space on the field as possible. We'll get into it with the different parts of the rotation when you actually want to be, controlling. But when we think about space, if you just crowd a corner and the defense clears the ball away from you, you don't have a lot of space control. What we want to focus on in our offensive rotation is covering and controlling as much space as possible. And then finally, we have momentum. Momentum plays into both of these because when you have a lot of momentum, that means you're going fast. Just think fast or speed. Those two words are what I mean when I mean by momentum. If you have a lot of momentum, you have a lot of speed, you're covering more space. And that's the second part. And if you're covering a lot of space in the field, you are covering more boost as well because you're just moving around the field. You're able to pick up more small pads, and you're able to pick up more big pads. And those are very important, like we talked about in our last class. So, with that being said, always think about these three things: boost, space, and momentum, because they all play into each other and they all give you different things to think about when you're in an offensive rotation. Let's hop into this. All right. I'm going to use blue for this just so we get everything down. We have first man, second man, and third man in the rotation. First, before we start, I'm going to label who is what. First man, right here. First man is the person on the ball all the time. Second man is the person farthest upfield that isn't the person on the ball, that hasn't gone for it already. I want to add as well. So when you think about first man being first man, hello Rampage. When you think
Hello.
about first man always being on the ball, you want to think of second man as their support option. And then finally, we have third man here, which is the anchor or the defensive rock of the offensive rotation. I know it sounds weird, but when you think about a third man, you want to think about the safety valve that you are. Okay, so let's go over the roles of each of these parts of the rotation. So we have first man. First man, you are always on ball, and your goal is to beat the defender or set up your second man. I like to think of your goal as first man to always being setting up your second man, but there are some points where you can just shoot the ball and it's a goal. What a first man has to do is they have to take a look at everyone in the rotation. So this guy here, all these three defenders, and then see where his teammates are and make a decision because he's the one with the ball and he's the one the defense has the most thinking about. Second man, as I said, the goal of the first man is to support second man, but the second man has to become available for first man to actually support it. If you have second man playing here, there's no way first man's going to get the ball to second man. So what you want to be thinking about is when you are second man, always being in a position that the person can get the ball to you from. So as you can see, I just drew these three arrows as places to be. For example, with this arrow here, you can just get the ball passed to. If you keep moving farther upfield, maybe you get the ball bounced off the corner from first man to you. As you can see, I'm using both first man and second man as a way to sort of put together the parts of the rotation, because first and second man, if you're a good first man and you don't have a good second man, sometimes things aren't just going to work. As a second man, you got to be really good at supporting first man wherever they are. A few rules that I like to think about or give to people when they're wondering, hey, where should I sit as second man? The first rule is always be available if the ball pops out. So if you're second man, you want to be in a position where if this 50 happens, we'll use pink for this. If this 50 happens, as a second man, are you able to move over and get the ball? If you're over here, so we use this blue X, there's no way you're getting the ball if a 50 happens. But as you can see where I put second man here, he's always able to move over. And we'll get into it, but sometimes third man is able to get there as well. Okay, and then finally we have third man in this rotation. Third man is always the farthest person back. And what that means is when we have first man and second man pushing up field, third man also wants to push up field, but you got to be very careful about staying back and being that safety valve. That's what I really like to call it. Safety valve is what a third man is. Because in a rotation on offense, there are points where things just don't work out. Your first man gets 50'd really badly into the corner. Maybe second man gets the pass and just clangs it off the back wall and it's rotating back. Your goal as third man is to basically cover up the mistakes of first and second man and be that person that if first or second man messes up, they're able to get back. But you got to make sure you're still able to fill in the rotation for when these things happen. So that's the balance you have to have. You have to be close enough that you can support first man and second man after they go for the ball. And then you also have to be far enough back that if the ball pops out, you can't be pushed up all the way upfield to like here where you're having to track back and makes it really hard. Okay, let's keep going. This is the way that I like to teach offense, especially at the earlier stages, but it is a rotation that every single player in Rocket League should learn how to do on offense. And I call it the sweep rotation. This area or this arrow is a general idea of the rotation you want to be making. So think about when you were moving the ball through the field, keeping your car's path kind of close to what this arrow is. Obviously, if you're able to pass the ball mid, pass the ball mid. If you're able to bang the ball off the corner, bang the ball off the corner. But what we want to think about is there's a few goals that we want to get with this sweep rotation. And that is, as we talked about, boost, space, and then momentum. So let's go each of these three things. First off is boost. In this rotation, as you can see, the arrow goes through two big boosts. This one right here and this one right here. Picking up these boosts accomplishes two things. You get boost for yourself, and then you also eliminate boost for the defenders because these are their back boosts. So if you're able to pick up a back boost, that makes your life a lot better, and it also makes the defender's life a lot harder because, as we talked about, the more boost you have, the more things you can do. So inversely, the less boost you have, the less things that you can do. So when we pick up these two boosts, we accomplish getting boost. Okay, next up, space. You are covering a lot of space when you go around this. And there's one thing that I want you to start thinking about, and that is disrupting the space of the people who are defending. As you can see, they are sitting in their defensive rotation, waiting to move in. The second you start coming in like this and really disrupting, especially when you get around to this area, if you're able to get a bump, you disrupt their space. They're not able to be in the same spot that they want to be because you're in that area. And if you get a bump or if you get a demo, what happens is you either A, demo them and open the space up fully for the rotation, or you bump them and slow them down or push them out of the space that they want to be in. So by going through this sweep rotation and disrupting this area, and maybe if someone's trailing back, disrupting right here, this is just an example of defensive rotation, but it's a way to think about where they're going to be. You're able to disrupt the space there. Okay, and then finally, momentum. Momentum it's probably the toughest thing to really get a good grasp of, especially with newer Rocket League players, just because they're not used to trying to go fast all the time. But as you can see, this is a very long path that you're going through. And if you want to be able to go through and get back to become third man, as a rotation is, you got to be moving fast. And the way you do that is you want to be flipping. You want to be trying to get through net. Don't chase a demo in net. Just disrupt that space and then get out and come back through. And this is kind of like a little backward C shape. But what it does is this is a really long pathway. So you get supersonic going through that path. And then you shoot down. You get slow for a second. But then you keep that momentum going. And you get another straightaway that keeps your momentum going. And then if you'd like to, after you see everyone, you can just go up the wall and keep your momentum going straight as you rotate back on to the third man. And what happens is we have these three areas where we're able to keep our speed going, and that keeps our momentum up. So I haven't really talked about the actual rotation you should be making. With this kind of rotation, first man does their job, hits the ball once or twice, and then gets out. Second man does one of two things. If the ball goes in the corner, so we'll use red as if the ball's going in the corner, say the ball's right here, he goes for the ball here and then does the same rotation and rotates back, same as first man did. And then if this person goes in the corner, what does third man do? Well, third man fills in for where second man was, and he pushes up here and he supports third man because we're going to have first man rotating back to here. And as you can see, there's this method where we're all filling in for each other, where I'll make this look a little easier, you know. But as you can see, we have this rotation going where first man's filling in for third man, second man then fills in for first man, and then third man can fill in behind second and first man. And so we get this rotation going, kind of like a circle. Let's say the ball is past mid, so we use blue for this. Say blue still probably can do the same thing, where he passes it mid and then goes for this sweep, like that. Second man hits it and either goes corner or shoots the ball. And then he also does a rotation, maybe on pads like this, maybe picking up the boost here. He's just trying to find boost. Remember, this is really important. This boost section right here is very important for when you're trying to actually get this rotation going. Rocket League is super situational, so I can't give you a one-size-fits-all rotation. It all depends on what's happening. If he shoots the ball and he misses the shot, then you want to pick up as much boost as you can. And it just depends on where the boost is. And then, as third man comes in, if the ball's past mid, he just does the same thing. He fills in here, he fills in here. He fills in wherever there isn't, and here we go, second part, space. Wherever there isn't space covered by someone else, he fills in. Now you might be asking, as third man, how do you figure out what space you should be covering? When you are playing Rocket League, you want to think about what you can do and what you can cover on the field. And there's a RLCS coach, Verge, who made a video that I highly recommend you should watch as well. His rotation video is really great. But he thinks of your Rocket League sort of how much you can cover as a cone, like this. And so what you want to be doing is cover as much space as possible and think about your teammates like cones. What vision cone do they have? Where are you able to cover? All of these things make it so that when you are moving around the field, if you see these two covering this much space in the field, we'll just cover it like that. As a third man, you want to make sure your cone doesn't interact with your other two teammates. So that's why I like saying playing around here, you cover the space behind them, and then you're able to turn back and then maybe cover that space. A lot of jumbled lines for me here, but always think about the space your teammates can cover like a cone. So, for example, if your teammate turns infield like this and his cone comes here and the other teammate rotates out, as you can see, we have a cone here and then we have a cone coming here. So the open space is where you want to be, which is basically where your third man is right now, but you might want to move up a little bit. But as you can see, there's all these methods where you want to make sure the cones of space that you're covering doesn't interact with another teammate and make it harder for you guys to cover as much space as possible. All right, any questions on that?
No, I think it makes sense.
Cool. Okay, let's talk about something else. Midfield control. This is very important. This goes along with space. That's why I was talking about you want to think of space as something to control. Midfield control is normally third man's job. That's why I kind of talked about the safety valve of a rotation. As you can see, we kind of have this diagram where this is the in-between area that you want to be covering, the space in green. And third man's goal is if the ball ever comes into this area, he's able to position for it. And the way he's able to position for it is he thinks about first off the cones. As you see, we have the cones here, and they're not covering any of this space in the midfield, so he wants to be able to cover that. And he's also moving forward so that if the ball actually comes to this space, he's not sitting here. He's sitting where the ball's going to be. And that's why, as a third man, the rule of thumb is if the ball is pinched back to you somehow, are you able to get to it? And in this spot, as you can see, there's no way Mikey is losing the 50 because these defenders aren't even looking at the ball. So athlete in the situation, the third man, knows that he's able to push farther upfield and make it easier on himself to position for this midfield control. I have here the third bullet point, delicate balance. What do I mean by that? I like to think of it as not too close and not too far. Because if you're too far, you're not able to cover any of this space. Like if athlete's back here, it takes him a lot longer to get to the spot that he actually wants to be in than if he is in the spot that he is right now. However, if he's too close, if he's like sitting next to Primal and this ball gets pushed back, he's not able to get back in time unless unless one of his teammates gets there. But he wants to be the person that is the safety valve of the offensive rotation. So there's always this delicate balance of making sure you're able to cover this zone, but also able to turn around or get the ball coming back whenever it does. So that's why when we think about midfield control, we always want to think about where the ball's gonna be and position for if the ball pops back to me, I'll be ready for it. So as a third man, very important to keep that delicate balance going. Next up, boost control. We talked about the sweep rotation. Oh, I think my Alexa went off. Whoops. As I was saying, we want to think about the midfield boost control. I have this sweep rotation. This is kind of just the same rotation we were talking about a few slides ago. But as you can see, we have a diagram pointing to these two midfield boosts. And that is because you really need to prioritize big boosts, as I talked about in my boost management masterclass, as a way to keep up as much boost as possible. It's pretty simple math. 100 is a lot more than 12. So you always want to be picking up these big boosts so that you're denying it from the other team and you're giving your team as much boost as possible. So that's why when you are third man, making sure if you're either rotating in or rotating out, looking at these mid boosts, if these two boosts aren't open, so that you're not having to go all the way back to this boost and then rotating back in. We talked about in the boost management masterclass, if you do this rotation where you rotate out and then you rotate back in, this takes forever. You're taking so long to put yourself back in the rotation. So what you want to do is you want to prioritize these mid boosts as much as possible. And then if you really need to, pick up some boosts on the boost lanes and get yourself back into the rotation. And as I say, limit the back boost, guys. Try not to do this rotation. Try to always pick up a mid boost, pick up a back boost and come in, or pick up this boost lane. Just because going all the way back for back boost makes your rotation so slow trying to get back in. Okay, finally, best practices for offensive rotations. These are the things that I like to tell people. This is for the more advanced people that are watching this and that are listening to this. You always want to think about best practices. And what I like to say best practices are, if I'm in a rotation, what am I trying to do? And as you can see, this is my first bullet point. Demo, demo, demo. This sweep rotation, it gets your demos there. And if you're able to, always demo in rotation, because when you demo someone, the other team loses a number. And as we know, 3 is more than 2. So we always want to be demoing as much as possible using this sweep rotation and trying to pick up as many defensive cars as possible. Next up, play 50s, not dunks. What do I mean by that? A 50-50, for the people that don't know, is when 2 cars make a challenge, and it's called a 50-50 because there's a 50% chance that one of the cars is going to win the challenge. A 50 means you're both hitting the ball at the same time. Dunks, on the other hand, is when you're trying to predict where the person's going to hit the ball and you're a little slower to the ball. If you are trying to dunk someone, that means you are not getting a 50% chance. You're getting less than a 50% chance. We could say 40, 30%. In Rocket League, you don't really have percentages because there aren't things like critical strike chances or damage chances. It's just when you look at the game and you think mentally, how much of a chance do I have to hit this ball? We always want to hit the ball at the same time and not try dunking them after they hit the ball. Next up, think about passing. I didn't bring up passing as much in the earlier slides because in a rotation, I just want you focusing on everyone doing their job in this spot. But when you get to the higher levels, you're going to have this passing option open. And if you're able to cut the ball mid and get a free shot on net, most defenders are covering this corner or covering this corner, depending on where the ball is. And they're not covering this midfield space where you have that open area. So always think about passing, especially when you're getting up to those diamond and champ level lobbies. Always play for the team. That's why I talked about that midfield boost control. If you rotate through like this, don't go back for this boost. You got to keep the team spacing going. We talk about controlling space. If you go all the way back and then rotate back in, and your teammate doesn't do that, look at how much shorter of a path they have compared to you. If you keep that spacing too long, what's going to happen is you're going to realize, wow, they just cut me in rotation and I'm not actually doing anything. What's going on? You want to be really, really good about when you rotate, keeping your spacing and keeping the path the same as your other teammates trying to go net. And then finally, rotate back post. What is back post, you might ask? When we think about a Rocket League field, we want to cut it down the middle like this. We want to see where the ball is. And there you have two posts in net. You have your left post and your right post. If the ball is on the left side of the field, so if we're cutting it up and we turn the field forward, so we're looking at the ball, the left side of the field and the right side of the field creates front post and back post. If the ball is on this side of the field, this is front post and this is back post. Just because front, it's closer to the ball, back, it's farther from the ball. And then the other way around, let's say it's right side, this is front post and this is back post. I do the sweep rotation because if we're thinking about the ball on this side, on the left side, this is always going to be front post and this is going to be back post because the ball is on this side of the field. So when you do a sweep rotation, look which direction you're traveling. You're traveling to back post, not front post. You don't want to do this rotation because then you're going front post. If you do the sweep correctly, you're going back post. All right. That is all I got. Are there any questions?
So, with the vision cones,
Mm-hmm.
how do I determine like how long the cone is?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is depending on how fast you are going. The faster and the more momentum you have, when you think about it, if you're really fast and you double jump, you're going to go a lot farther than if you are not fast and just jump in place. So whenever you think about vision cones, think about how much momentum you have, and that's how you can kind of gauge like if I double jumped right now, how much space would I cover?
Mhm.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Sweet.
With when is it ever a good idea to like have vision cones intersect
I
or
would say normally no, unless you're trying to pass the ball. Or you have a teammate that you see that is going to lose their 50 really badly and you need to cover for him. Those are like the only two spots.
okay.
You normally don't want to intersect when it comes to like vision cones going at each other.
Um as second man, if I see first man is gonna have like a really even 50,
Mm-hmm.
ball's not gonna move very far,
Yeah.
where should I go?
You say that again?
So if I'm second man
Mm-hmm.
and first man is having a 50
Mm-hmm.
and the ball's not gonna like launch anywhere, I know it's gonna be pretty stationary, where should I go?
Yeah. So let's say he 50s in the corner here. Say the ball's right there. We'll use the ball as yellow. You're going to want to go to wherever the ball is. That's what second man does is they support after first man goes to the ball. So if you see a 50 and it's in that corner, then as second man, it's your turn to go for the ball in the corner. And then third man just fills in the space from where second man was.
Okay.
Yep. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Um, how is there like ever a reason to stay close to the ball as first man if you can like boom it to second man?
Yes. If you want to stay close to the ball to boom it to second man, think about pinching with a 50. So like directing your car one way, so when the 50 happens, the ball pushes towards second man. So like
Okay.
if the second man's mid on the, so if second man, we'll go back to this just to make it easier visually. If you have someone challenging you this way and you want to stay close and get the ball to second man here, you want to position your car to the outside of the challenge so that, when you think about in physics, when you have this thing and this thing coming at each other, if you turn your car this way, it's going to pinch it out like that.
Okay.
Yeah. That all makes sense?
Yeah.
Sweet. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you everyone for stopping by. Uh, we're going to be having classes every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays. And I hope to see you guys next week.